Okay. Welcome, Sailesh. You have been such an amazing supporter and pillar and friend and leader and mentor. And speaking of the divine feminine, you're a beautiful example of a man who has embraced the divine feminine. So I know today is, I believe, the 6th part of your ongoing series. And this one is, the series is How Not to Go Extinct. What was the other part of the title?
Healing the Planet.
Healing the Planet, or How Not to Go Extinct. And this part is on the personal. So if everyone's ready to go, I say we jump right in and carry on. How's everyone feeling?
That's good.
Good? Beautiful. All right, Sailesh,
Thank you.
We love you. We're so happy to see you. Please lead us. We're here to support and participate. And this is your show, so carry on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let me start sharing. I'm sorry I couldn't attend the Divine Feminine. I wanted to, but I was busy preparing for this one. So sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. It's all recorded.
Oh, good. So this is actually the 7th one, believe it or not. This is the last personal.
Oh, right. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. The previous 6, I guess the previous 6, the videos are available that we can take and extract out the presentation from that. So, and you can see that I've been doing it once a week. This is the last one. So thank you very much for the platform, Jamin.
Absolutely.
And so today I'm going to talk about the personal transformation that needs to happen for healing the planet and reversing this path towards extinction that we have been on. So I want to start with this example. Now, how would you respond in a house fire? Wouldn't you be doing things differently as soon as you see your house is on fire? Wouldn't we be getting up and how would we continue with our routines? Okay, so I say, what is the first thing you should do in a house fire? The first thing we should do in a house fire is to stop throwing fuel around. And that is veganism. It's actually nothing extraordinary that we're doing as vegans. We're just saying we won't throw any more fuel in the fire. We won't make the extinction event worse than it already is. Yeah. So that is what is happening around the earth, because around the earth there's an extinction event happening, and you see all these fires being set just to graze animals. And you say, why would you continue to do that? So this is the fuel that we keep throwing on the fire. And for changing that, it requires us to change our personal habits. So it starts with the personal, and that becomes social. So Gandhi actually said that, for any social change, there has to be a personal change that drives it. It's only when lots of people change personally that you create a social movement. So this is what he meant when he said, be the change you want to see in the world. So he's saying, change yourself and then help others change so that you create a social movement out of that. So there is no social change without personal change. And so what he did in the Khadi movement is an example of that. Because in the Khadi movement, he changed his clothing. That was the main thing he changed. Changed his clothing, and he considered it his duty to induce people by every honest means to change their clothing. So he went around convincing people to change their clothing. He wrote this in the Navjivan magazine in 1926. And by 1930, if you look at the Salt March, everyone is wearing Khadi clothes. And by 1930, the reason the Salt March happened was because the British government in India at that time imposed a salt tax. Why did they impose a salt tax? Because they were not getting any revenues from India. People were not buying clothes. Clothing was the biggest producer of revenues for England at that time, because it was the largest industry in England at that time. So they said, well, if you cannot get them to buy clothes, let's tax them for salt, because everyone has to eat salt. So that was the thinking that happened in the government. And they were really trying to get revenues after the Depression. So the economy was hurting. Okay? So they imposed the salt tax, and Gandhi said, no, I'm not paying salt tax to you. So he marched to the ocean, he created salt, and he ate it, and he said, I'm not paying a single dime or whatever, single paisa to the British government. And of course, they threw him in jail. And of course, by that time, they realized that this was a very powerful movement. They couldn't stop it, so they decided to negotiate with him. So the start of the roundtable conferences happened right after the Salt March. So it was a personal change that initiated this social change. Oh, maybe I should be getting into, hold on a second. Let me get into slideshow. Okay. Now here we are with the extinction event that's happening. And it is caused by, I mean, if you look at what is causing extinction of animals, it is caused by what we are eating. Plain and simple. There is no way around this. Okay. So 10,000 years ago, the biomass of wild animals was 200 million tons, and human beings were a tiny little blip on top of that. And by 1970, we had reduced the biomass of wild animals by 60%. So they were down here. And then our biomass was equal to the weight of all the wild animals that lived 10,000 years ago. And on top of that, we were raising farmed animals that were double our weight, and they were eating 3 times as much food as we eat. So as far as the planet was concerned, it was consuming, they were the equivalent of a biomass of 3 times the biomass. So that was 1970. And then between 1970 and 2010, we doubled our weight. We reduced the weight of wild animals by 52%. Okay, so that we're driving them down. So now they're over 80% less than what they used to be by 2010. And it's growing exponentially. So we doubled our weight, and our farmed animals are now like 9 times the weight of all the wild animals that lived 10,000 years ago. And the plan at this time, the plan of the UN was to double it even more. So double it by 2040. I don't even want to show you that. I mean, so if our plan is that, then obviously our plan is to go towards extinction. So the house is on fire, and the people are throwing more and more fuel on the fire. Because the game of money that we are playing, we make more money when we raise and kill more animals. So it's the death equals money equation that drives us to do this. And in the health crisis, I mean, the COVID-19 is caused by the wet markets in China, wet markets around the world. And I was surprised to find this article in the National Review, which equated the wet markets in China with the factory farming in America. So it's not Bernie Sanders who said this first. Bernie Sanders is still supporting the dairy industry in Vermont, and he goes around hunting and so on. It's National Review, one of the most conservative magazines. Okay? So Matthew Scully, the writer who did this article, he was a former speechwriter for George W. Bush. So he's saying, when are we going to stop this? And we need to stop it worldwide, not just in China. So it's not about pointing our fingers over there. It's about looking at all of us and what we are doing to animals. So I was really surprised to see this. And it came in the National Review today. 14 of the 15 leading causes of death in Western countries can be mitigated and even reversed if we just go on a whole foods vegan diet. So this is again calling for this personal change to happen for us to address the extinction crisis. Okay? And some of these diseases like heart disease, lung disease, digestive diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, these make COVID-19 more lethal. And wouldn't you want to reverse this in the population? If we are truly addressing the COVID-19 crisis, our government should be funding the transformation to veganism so that people can address the root cause of their problems. And finally, for the climate emergency, it's the same thing. Okay? So we have a system in which we don't look at lifestyle changes at all, because that's where the money is being made. And so we are destroying the environment for money. And then we are trying to make money off the fixing of the environment. So all of the representative concentration pathways of the IPCC studies are based on this model of continuing with the destruction and then trying to fix it at the other end. And the only thing they don't consider is the lifestyle change. And lifestyle change, even though that's the only solution that's available to us. Okay? If you don't want to cross this line, and if you don't want to trigger irreversible climate change, we have to do a lifestyle change right now. And we can look at the IPCC's data, and the data is very clear on this. Because if you look at what is causing heating on the planet, CO2 is causing about 1.68 watts. Methane and other gases are causing about 1.7 watts per square meter. And the aerosols are cooling by 1.1 watt per square meter. So the total is about 2.3 watts per square meter. Okay? Then you can analyze what do you have to switch in order to make this thing better for us. And so there are two major engines of planetary destruction: the killing machine, which is animal agriculture, and the burning machine, which is fossil fuels and industry. So we can just then split that up and say, okay, what is the impact of the killing machine if we shut it down? What is the impact of the burning machine if we shut it down? So if we shut down the burning machine, every year, the burning machine is causing 87% of the CO2 emissions, 23% of the methane emissions, almost 100% of the sulfur dioxide emissions, okay, which is the aerosol emissions. So if you then calculate the impact of shutting down the burning machine today, you'll see in 1 year, you'll save 0.027 watts per square meter of heating from CO2. You'll save 0.022 watts per square meter of heating from methane. But then the SO2 is currently cooling by 9.95 watts per square meter, and that will disappear within 4 to 5 days. So which means if you shut down the burning machine right now, you're going to increase the heating by 0.9 watts per square meter, the exact opposite of what we should be doing. But if you shut down the killing machine, it's responsible for 31% of the CO2, which is 0.009 watts per square meter. It's responsible for 37% of the methane, which causes 0.035 watts per square meter of heating. And then it's using 37% of the land, okay, on which you can store 34.5 gigatons of CO2 every year if you just return that land back to forests. And that would store 0.06, that was the equivalent of 0.06 watts per square meter. So which means if you shut down the killing machine, you'll start cooling today by 0.1 watts per square meter per year. This is exactly what we should be doing. And the reason it is the shutting down the killing machine has such a huge impact is because it's using up 37% of the land area of the planet just to graze animals, on which only 2% of the carbon is stored. So if you restore the carbon on this land from 2% and up to 20%, if you raise it up to 20%, you can literally reverse climate change. That's how powerful land use change is. So the first step is to go vegan, you know, and we have been giving resources to people on how to go vegan. There are all these apps available. There are actually more things that we're going to be working on now that we'll make available soon. And so we know why you have to go vegan, you know how to go vegan. So all the resources are available for people. But is that enough, right? And is that happening, first of all? And I think it is already happening. So there's an exponential growth in the vegan movement. I could see that in the search terms for vegan on Google. And it's happening in all the rich countries of the world, United States, Canada, Australia, and so on. So you can see that this is a trend that is inevitable. You're going to get to a vegan world, okay? But how soon are we going to get to a vegan world? And businesses are switching because businesses have no choice. If they don't switch, they're going to go bankrupt. Okay? So how soon are we going to see a vegan world? I believe we're going to see it by 2026 for sure. With the rate at which it's going, because Forbes reported 7x growth in 3 years in the US. Okay, 600% increase in people identifying as vegan just in the last 3 years. And this is from a global data survey of 2017. So in 3 years, if you have a 7x growth, then by 2020, it'll be another factor of 7. By 2023, a factor of 49. And by 2026, another factor of 343 from 2017 levels, which means that by 2026, you will have a completely vegan world if you just maintain the current rate of growth. And I think we are going to accelerate the current rate of growth right now. Okay, because a lot of people who are hurting for food and they don't want to get sick. And so we have to make good, clean, and immune boosting vegan food available to people so that they can switch automatically, right? Because this is the right thing to do. So I see this as the Khadi movement of the 21st century. So I'm just paraphrasing Mahatma Gandhi, and I say, I consider it my duty to induce people by every honest means to go vegan. Okay? This is the equivalent of changing to Khadi clothes from 100 years ago. And Howard Lyman said that too. He said, you can change the world. You must change the world. So we have that power, in our individual choices to actually change the world. But we have to go beyond vegan. Okay, is veganism enough? Well, we have to, it's not just changing ourselves, but it's also changing the society around us, helping people transform themselves. Okay. So change is inevitable, like the coronavirus is showing, right? Change is going to be forced on us, whether we like it or not. But transformation is intentional. So transformation means that we choose to change before change is forced on us. So what we are doing with social distancing is transformation. It's transformational, It's basically saying, no, we don't want to be killed by a virus. So therefore, we are going to sit here and prevent the virus from hitting us, right? That's a transformational action. So we are part of the greatest transformation in human history. And in that sense, this is, we are so lucky to be alive at this time to make this transformation happen. And it's also, I think we are being chosen to do this. So we should all feel like we are a special set of human beings. Our ancestors couldn't do it. Our children are going to, people are going to come later, are going to just see the impact of what we have done. So this transformation is from Homo sapiens to Holo Ahimsa, I call it, which is from a predator species to a caretaker species, from a system of normalized violence to a system of normal non-violence. And so instead of going extinct, we're going to transform and thrive. And there are 7 core shifts to this transformation, from speciesism, colonialism, racism, ableism, and patriarchy to veganism and radical equality, from diseases and divisions for humanity to health and unity for humanity, from destruction and pollution of the planet to remediation and regeneration of the planet, from death and cruelty to animals to love and kindness for animals, from a culture of consumption to a culture of compassion, from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, and from a money-driven economy to a service-driven economy. So I've spoken about this before, but I want to say, emphasize this in every talk I give, because this is the core of it. So now let's go into details as to how would we do this? How would we contribute beyond going vegan? So I say that there are four main types of actions, categories of actions we can take. Okay? And they all come from Deborah Friese's analysis of how systems transform themselves. So these are the four types of actions that people take in any system transformation. First is elimination. Elimination is to show what is wrong with the current system. So it's explaining why we need to transform. And that needs to happen for a wholesale system transformation to happen in society. Second is hospice care, which is to help the old die and to become and to enable the new to be born. Third is protection, which is protecting the new as it's being born. So preventing the old from killing the new. And the fourth is trailblazing, which is to figure out what the new is. Okay? So this is figuring out the processes and systems that have to be put in place for the new. And in each of these categories of actions, you can take actions. So elimination, it's about, first of all, it's about transforming our story. So changing the story, instead of looking at the mess that Michelangelo made, creating David, it's about focusing on the David. Okay? Focusing on the good things that have happened. So we know, that in any ecosystem, every species belongs. Every species does its thing and enjoys the abundance of that ecosystem, in any thriving ecosystem. So nature's vitality code is that, every species give all that you can, receive all that you need, and become all that you are. So you fulfill yourself. But we have told a story in which we have been separated from this ecosystem, from nature. Okay? And the story of separation makes us use our strength to actually destroy nature. Okay? And this is the foundation of the caterpillar system, the story of separation, that we don't belong. And my granddaughter actually turned my head around and told me to look at it the other way. And she said, she basically, just by her presence, made me look at things differently. So as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And she's been my teacher. So she made me look at it as if we do belong exactly as we are, and we have been doing something that nature wants. That is the new story, because separation is untrue. And this is the wishing tree story in the Vedas, which explains to you the story of separation in the Bible. It actually explained to me to interpret the story of separation in the Bible differently than what I had been doing all along. Okay? So in this story, and I'll tell this story because it's a really it's a beautiful story. So in this story, there are children playing with sticks and stones and rag dolls on the floor of their hut in the middle of the forest. And their uncle comes to visit them. And the uncle says, "Hey, why are you playing with sticks and stones when the wishing tree is right outside your hut? Go out under the tree and wish for anything you want, and it'll give it to you." Okay? So the wishing tree is it's actually an inverted tree in the Vedas. It's a fig tree with its fruits on the ground and its roots in the sky. So right away, you're told an imagery that makes you realize that it is not meant to be taken literally. Okay? It is a figurative story. So the children don't believe this uncle, and they say, how can there be a tree like this? This is not how the universe is built. So they wait until the uncle leaves, and then they rush to the tree and they start wishing. They wish for sweets, and they get them. And they gorge on the sweets, and they get stomachache. Then they wish for toys. They get them. And they play with the toys and they get bored. Then they wish for fancier toys. And that leads to greater boredom. So there was something about this tree that they did not understand. It grants you what you wish for, and along with it comes the exact opposite. Because that's how the universe is built, of dualities. The children didn't know that. All they knew is that they couldn't stop wishing under the tree, and the more they wished, the more miserable they were. Then they get to be young men and women. And now they're wishing for what young men and women wish for. The four main fruits of the tree were sex, fame, money, and power. And with each comes its opposite. The result was more misery and suffering for the young men and women. Then they get to be old men and women. And they congregate under the tree in three different groups. The first group says, we were so happy when we didn't know about this tree. This has all been a hoax and a farce. And the story says they were fools, for they hadn't understood the tree. The second group says, we must have been wishing for all the wrong things. If we could go back and wish for different things, I'm sure we'd have been a lot happier than we were. The story says they were bigger fools. They'd understood less than nothing about this tree. And the third group was the most foolish of the lot, but they come under the tree and they say, we are so miserable, we wish you were dead. And the tree grants them the wish. And they're immediately reborn under the same tree. Because that's how the tree grants wishes in dualities. Okay? But the story doesn't end there. Then it goes on to talk about a lame child who was watching all this from inside the window of the hut. He also wanted to go out and wish for a good leg so he could walk. But there was such a crowd of people under the tree, and they pushed him away, so he couldn't get through. So he stood there and he watched. And he saw how the tree was making everybody miserable. The people who were wishing were miserable. The people who were trying to get to the tree were miserable. All the animals were suffering because of all the wishing. And then he had a brilliant flash of insight. He understood the tree. And with that understanding, the flash of understanding, he began to feel a well of compassion come from within him for all the suffering under the tree. And he lost the desire to wish. He became detached from the tree. And with that combination of compassion and detachment, he was the happiest of the lot. So the story still doesn't explain what was this brilliant flash of insight that this little child, lame child, had. For that, we have the Upanishads, which is like an exposition on the Vedas. And in one of the Upanishads, they say that wishing child and watching child are inside each one of us. That's our duality. And it's up to us to get in touch with our watching child and observe our wishing child. So that also makes it seem like if you want to be happy in the universe, you need to step away from the universe and not really act. Okay, so that question then comes up in the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita is about action. Do we have to act at all in the universe? Why don't we just let God do all this work, right? So that's what man goes and asks God, why do you want me to fight the battle of life? You are God, so you take care of the problem. And God says, no. How do you think I take care of the problems? Through you. So you have to act. And then he teaches him how to wish under this tree. He said, if you go under the tree and you wish for yourself, you're going to be miserable and you're going to suffer. But if you go under the tree and you wish for the benefit of everyone else, and you say, I don't want anything from this tree for myself, then you'll be perfectly happy wishing under the tree, and everyone will be happy because of your wishing. So it's selflessness that's the highest form of selfishness. Because selfishness is about making myself happy, right? I want to be happy. And so a selfish person is not any different from a selfless person. It's just the selfless person has understood that the true route to happiness is selflessness. Whereas a selfish person hasn't figured that out yet. That's all. So that explains the separation story in the Bible as well, because there Adam and Eve ate the apple themselves. If they had used the apple, the knowledge tree, for the benefit of other species, they'd be perfectly happy in Eden still. And that's what we have to now go back to doing. because every species has a role in nature. Okay? Like an elephant, if you see the elephant breaking branches of trees, that's where the sunlight streams and nourishes the underbrush. So even though it may seem like the elephant is doing something destructive, it's actually constructive to the ecosystem in the long run. So in that sense, we have been doing something that is for the benefit of all life, because we have the role to be the climate regulators of planet Earth. We have been given this role, whether we like it or not. We've been given this role because we are going to have to keep the temperature from going way above what it is today, and therefore killing us all. So it's in our self-interest to become the climate regulators of planet Earth. And that's what nature has seemingly intended us to do. Because if you look at what has happened over the last 600,000 years, you see so many ice ages and interglacial periods. And in the current interglacial period, something amazing happened. So instead of going down to another ice age, the temperature kept held constant. And that's because of what we did as human beings. So we kept the temperature constant by burning down forests and by growing agriculture. So this is our trend. This is what we did. So we kept the temperature constant instead of it going down to another ice age 5,000 years ago. And the amount of temperature increase we caused by that is actually greater than the amount of temperature increase that we have caused by burning fossil fuels, B. Okay. So which means that if we now bring back the forests that we lost, and we can do that if the world goes vegan, we can literally keep the temperature at the thermostat setting. So this is the new story that we have to tell. So the role of the illuminators is to go around telling this new story so that people know that they belong. Because, what Viktor Frankl said is that man fundamentally needs to have meaning in life. So man is constantly searching for meaning in life. And the meaning in life for every individual human being has to be set in the context of the meaning in life for our species. So making us the thermostat species then gives us a role as a species. So we can tell the story as part of the climate healers. You can start a climate healers group in your area and tell this story. You can share the webinars that I've made on this topic. You can also screen documentaries like The Human Experiment, Conspiracy, and What the Health that shows people what has been going on in the current system and how they have been used to make money for a few people, basically by pouring toxins out into the environment, having those toxins concentrate in animal foods, making us eat the animal foods so that we get sick, and then fixing us with pharmaceuticals and surgical procedures. And we can see now with the coronavirus that this model is completely broken. Okay? So we are doing things to make ourselves sick, and then we are fixing them. Well, the hospitals are now completely overwhelmed. And we are all sitting at home because of that. Then we have to show movies about what we are doing to animals, what is really going on, so that people see that this is eliminating this is not only brings justice to the world, it also has an impact on ourselves too. Show them movies about colonialism, racism, and patriarchy, and how each one of these are underlying the money system that we have today. You have to teach people about how the money game divides us today, how we are literally playing Monopoly and figuring out who has more and who has less. It's the game of accumulation. And how it promotes injustice and endless war. And fortunately, with the coronavirus epidemic now, we are all coming together across nations to address this. So it is sort of reversing this process of what money had been doing before. Can show the game of world domination and how Facebook with its currency is trying to basically accelerate the same process. You can tell people how all of these major companies are owned by the same people, and how they're really running the political system in the world. So it's all a show. It's all a game that we've been part of. Okay, and this game is now collapsing. So when the game collapses, when it starts collapsing, we have to first take care of ourselves. From a personal perspective, hospice care is not just about taking care of people who are in dying industries and helping them transition. It's also about ourselves too. So we have to nurture the imaginal self, because that's who we are now in the chrysalis phase. Nurture your health. Do some yoga. Okay? Take care of yourself. Meditation, which is, I mean, it's important during this time to take care of ourselves, to tell the new story and take care of ourselves. And recognize that all transformation goes through these 7 stages. We overcome our fear of the change. Then comes the guilt, the shame, the grief, the lies, the delusions, and finally the attachments. So that when you open all 7 chakras of transformation, then beautiful music flows through you. The third types of actions that we can do is protection, serving other species. I actually do just throw food out for the birds, because a lot of the animals now don't have the food that humans used to throw out, right? So they're not able to eat. So we have to help them out by planting trees, by growing food. We can help. We're protecting the new system. And finally, trailblazing, which is what we've been doing here, which is figuring out what the new system would look like and contributing towards that. Okay. So please endorse the Codes for a Healthy Earth. So this is the so-called Constitution for the Vegan World 2026. So you can find that on codes.earth. And basically it says that the only legitimate purpose of governance is to protect and cultivate the health and vitality of the planet and all its inhabitants for generations to come. Okay. So there is no other legitimate purpose of governance. In the Aquarius money game, so I've been talking about this, and we actually have we are all working on an app now to implement this. So in fact, in the summit that is ongoing, I talked to JF, Jean-Francois Nobel, and he actually was questioning this. Why should the flow rate be regulated by acts of compassionate service? He said flow rate should be independent. A compassionate service should come from the individual who owns this to say, okay, what is in my heart I want to give to you? I want to give to you. So you get gifting that happens from individuals. So maybe that's a good way to do it. So I'm not, we are also debating that and figuring out what is the right way. So anyway, this is a proposed money game in which everything is open source. So we know where everyone's money, how everyone gets money. The rules are all transparent. All money comes through individuals alone. And the money is used as a way of measuring our ecological footprint as humanity. So as an engineer, I do believe that we have to measure our footprint and make sure that we are within limits. Otherwise, we tend to go over our limits. Okay, so it's important for us to measure. And this is a measure of ecological footprint. So the flow comes automatically in, and some of it goes to our pocket for us to use for our individual purposes, and some of it goes to the community chest for the community to use. And some of it stays in the heart. So then from that, we can say if the individual doesn't do anything with what's in their heart, then it automatically goes to the community chest. And but the individual has the choice to either, to gift it to others. Or I thought originally that by doing acts of compassionate service, you increase the flow to the individual's pocket. But maybe it doesn't have to be this way. So we're implementing it actually with a food app to begin with. We call it K-Mama. And K-Mama is Kimaya's nickname. So this is an app that allows people to buy food, buy a meal, and gift a meal. So when you buy a meal, it automatically gifts a meal to someone else. And you can also buy meals and gift it. So you say, I don't want the meal for myself, but I want to gift it. So when you do that, you earn Aquarius points. Basically, you earn karunas. We call it karunas. Okay? So we're implementing an app, and it's going to be an open source app. So meaning the app will be available for the source code will be available for people to see, and we should have the alpha testing done by the end of, started by the end of this month. So the original idea of system for earning money was doing acts of compassion to the animals, to the earth, to human beings, or being creative with this. And so the new economy has to be completely open source. So everything has to be given away, because all new ideas that we come up with were based on ideas that the community had already given us. So there is no reason for us to say, well, this idea is mine, and I need to make money out of this idea for myself. No, that's completely separate. Making money is separate from your ideas. So this is an open source economy and ecology. And so we are, through that app, we are doing a transition. So taking money from the current system and using it to fund the Aquarius system. And it promotes, the Aquarius system promotes everything that we want to see happen in the new system. So it is a transition, to perhaps once we are completely in the butterfly phase, we really don't need to measure anymore. That we don't need money at all, right? But until then, I think we need to have some way of measuring our impact and making sure that we are meeting our requirements. But everything, it has to be voluntary. We must choose to transform. So in the Bhagavad Gita also, God tells man, I love you so much that I set you free even from me, and you're free to choose. So we must choose to transform. So perhaps in the COVID world of 2020, we must choose to transform to a caretaker species. And I'm saying we have 6 years to do this, to pull this off. And of course, I'd be very happy if we do it in 2 years, or 1 year, or 3 years. Anything less than 6 years, I'm happy. Kimaya will be happy too. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sailesh. Absolutely amazing. Your presentations just get better and better. And
thank you.
Wow, just so inspiring. And also, you do it with such grace and such love and such compassion, even for those who are totally misguided. And I think, anyway, I'm just so grateful that you're such a powerful leader in the world for all of us, and giving voice to the voiceless.
Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of voices, if you'd like, Sailesh, I can do the kind of moderating, and so you can just focus on.
Sure.
Yeah. So if anyone has questions or comments, if you're ready for that now, Sailesh, we can open it up to you. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you have a question, just feel free to raise your hand, and I'll call on you. Speaking of which, there's nothing wrong with silence. In fact, what's wrong with a few moments of silence after such an amazing presentation, representing such a beautiful life work? So my vote is let's just take a few moments and some deep breaths. And if someone wants to lead us on the breathing, please do. Preferably one of the divine feminine who we have in the house, or anyone really who would like to lead us. Or we can just silently breathe. Why not? All right, I got a question in from Ray.
Hmm.
He says, what about getting apps like Happy Cow on board the K Mama app? Can vegan restaurants and patrons earn reputation currency?
Yeah, we are going to be talking to Happy Cow about promoting the K-Mama app, but it's not just for vegan restaurants. It's all restaurants can participate in K-Mama. They have to provide vegan food. That's all. So we are saying that, and they will earn reputation currency. So we keep, we just count how many meals have they gifted each restaurant. How many meals have they served actually total through this app? Again, I mean, it's going to be an open source code, so we can, play with that, and see what works best. So I'm thinking that people should be able to buy meals in different neighborhoods and gift it. And then people can say, okay, what meals are available? Or they can say, I need a meal. So people can say, I need a meal today. I need 5 meals today. And then you can see, people coming forward and saying, okay, I'll give you this meal. So it's connecting those who have meals, who have the ability to make food available, with people who need to eat food.
All right, we've got a follow-up question from Ray saying, what about reputation currency for consumers making vegan choices?
Yeah, so that is part of what Arvind and Nandini were working on. This app is strictly about, it's only vegan food anyway. So because it's only vegan food that has the immune boosting, health promoting qualities that we want to, I mean, because it's not just the health of the individual, we're looking at the health of the planet as well, right? Why would we support eating of animals when we know it's causing all these diseases in the first place?
Beautiful. All righty, Miles has his hand up. Go for it, Miles.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. So today's presentation was the personal. What can we do personally as individuals?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm doing is on social media, responding to other people's YouTube videos about coronavirus. And one in particular comes to mind was a couple of videos put out by scientists warning. And I said, well, this is a meat and dairy virus, COVID-19. And the purpose of saying meat and dairy virus is to not just put out COVID-19, but actually that whole phrase, then COVID-19, because we have an opportunity to direct people to the root cause of COVID-19 or H1N1, SARS, bird flu, avian flu, swine flu, HIV, and on, easily come up with a dozen if I tried. So, but the thing was, that triggers people, maybe too much. And so, because I was very disappointed, and I'm going to say it right here, they said, conversation, or rather comments about diet are now closed. They don't want to talk about the fact that the number one climate, ecological, and pandemic culprit is industrial animal agriculture, meat and dairy. Mm-hmm. All right, so they closed me off. Not very scientific, in my opinion. Science is about free flow of ideas and let's debate. So anyway, now I'm thinking though, I might start using animal abuse virus, COVID-19, because it's not hitting people over the head, about their diet right off the bat. But people may say, oh, what do you mean animal abuse virus, COVID-19? Where are you coming from with that? Then I could say, well, do you know that it's because of the confined spaces of animals, whether they're in wet markets or whether they're in a big turkey barn or whether they're at a concentrated animal feed operation or at the slaughterhouses.
Right.
These zoonotic diseases are being passed because of the milk and dairy industry. Oh,
Right.
wow. So anyway, it's a little more mild to say the animal abuse virus, COVID-19. So anyway, that's more not so much a question, but a statement. So I don't know if you want to share more on that.
Yeah, in fact, let me show something that I did. I think some people have seen it. So I made a mask, face mask, using a grapefruit. And I wrote, "Stop COVID, go vegan" on it, right? And people are asking, so what's the point of this? Because you can't breathe through a grapefruit. And I said, well, I'm breathing from the sides. The point of it is to prevent my saliva from spitting out, from spraying around. So, and it is now in the grapefruit rind. Right? So, but this got a lot of attention. I went to Trader Joe's with it and people were taking pictures of it. And I think we need to sort of make this thing much more, the connection much more open. So that was my purpose and I have a lot of grapefruit rinds now that I can turn into this. All you need is a shoelace, grapefruit, and a marker to write this. That's all. And of course, when I come back home, I could smell, that the grapefruit has my saliva in it. So I threw it away. I put it in the not recycling, for composting. Okay. But I have plenty of grapefruit rinds, so I make another mask.
That's great. Really good. Thank you.
Yeah, see, because it's not just animal abuse. I think it's the use of animals itself causes it, right? Just the use itself causes it. Let's just stop using them. We don't have to use them anymore. So there's no point in continuing to use them for any purpose.
Yeah, and I'll just say you can also add that it's a people abuse viruses too, because meat and dairy is abusing our bodies. Mm-hmm. And so and if again somebody says, well, what do you mean? So you're saying that's the way we're treating animals and we're using animals, and you're saying we are abusing ourselves, and then you could say, well, consult Dr. Neil Bernard, Dr. Michael Greger, Dr. Clapper, and others, right? The science is there.
Right.
One of the things, if I will, I'll just go into my next question. One of the things that I learned from a lawyer who I'm going to just plug his book, Mitch Jackson. He's got Social Media, The Ultimate Guide to Social Media. And he wanted me to tell him what the 3 things that I liked best about his book. And so I'm going to say it right here, and I'll pass this video on to him. The 3 favorite tips in the book for me was, first of all, be a friend. So that means follow up every time somebody tweets you or responds to you. Use contracts. And if you're going to form an enterprise, it should be ideally a limited liability corporation. But the one thing I want to share that he also says is, he says, if somebody you love is being bullied, use registered mail to put everybody on notice. So it's, in other words, if you have a child at school and they're being bullied, as a parent, you just simply write a letter to the school superintendent, say, this is what happened, these are the facts, and use registered mail so it's guaranteed to get there. We could start doing that too with the medical profession, because one of the things I'm disappointed in is the few doctors that I just named, they really seem to be in the minority. I've talked to doctors, and there seems to be some sort of denial or reluctance to acknowledge the issue of diabetes, obesity, heart trouble, kidney disease, and the whole list of diseases that we suffer from, to acknowledge that it's coming out of what we eat. So we might just start using registered mail to put people on notice when you're having an event. Say you want to host screenings, invite your medical professionals using registered mail. Invite your representatives of your government by registered mail, because that you know that they now have it. And it is sort of putting them on notice that we know where the bullying is coming from that's causing us our problems. Thank you.
Right. In fact, there was a video of a doctor explaining how to create a mask, a face mask. And I was watching that video because he said he and his wife figured out how to create a mask at home that was just as good as an N95 mask. Okay. And the way he tested the mask, he said, I tested the mask by cooking bacon and see if I could smell it. And I was thinking, I mean, you're a doctor, right? You're talking about making masks for a disease that's caused by eating animals. And you're cooking an animal to show the efficacy of your work. I mean, how, I don't know, how stupid can you be, right? It's like the height of stupidity. I don't know. Anyway, then I realized these doctors, they don't even know this. They don't even know this. If he did, he would be ashamed to do something like that, right? If he knew. So obviously he doesn't even know it. That's why he's using that as a demo. So I think we have a lot of educating to do for the doctors. Maybe we should get these doctors to send those registered mails to all the doctors that they know of. Go to the AMA list and start sending letters to people, registered letters to people, saying, this is, stop it. Stop eating animals, stop promoting the consumption of animals. This is why. Here are the papers you need to go read. Here's a website you can go and read all the papers. So this way they know, that they should be setting a better example. Because it's their own lives too. The doctors are dying on the front lines. Doctors, nurses are dying on the front lines of this COVID-19. So it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy of ignorance.
Absolutely. What a great conversation. Alrighty, we've got two people in the queue, Myra, followed by Jamin. Go for it, Myra.
Hey, I want to relate to what Sailesh is saying, Dr. Sailesh, about the whole situation with that whole bacon thing.
Right.
I've always believed, and I know that this world doesn't have, like, the main problem of this world, all the conflicts, it's not political, it's not race problems or religious problems. The reality about this is that of every problem that creates all this other problem is the lack of consciousness within humanity, is the lack of consciousness of learning how to love one another. And loving one another, it takes a lot. It has a very deep meaning inside of there. Loving one another is basically loving animals, loving humans, loving our Mother Earth. And I wanted to share this experience that I lived, because it has been a very challenging week. This young boy that I had been following I'm good friends with his uncle, and he was diagnosed with different types of cancer. It all started with the bone marrow, and then he ended up having cancer in the lungs, and it just started getting worse. Very young guy, 21 years old. And I kept on insisting to his uncle, You guys need to alkalize his body.
Mm.
Alkalizing his body is going to be the only way that he can fight those cancer cells. And I know it because I witnessed it. I witnessed it with family members that have had cancer and they were in stage 4, and we brought it down. Like, it didn't even took not even more than 4 months. We brought it to 2 stage just by alkalizing that body.
Mm.
Well, this young man, sadly, he struggled with his cancer situation for about a year, and he passed away on Monday.
Mm.
And his uncle created a nonprofit foundation that is called Cookie from Heaven, and they have helped other people with the expenses of this chemotherapies and everything. And they never wanted to hear me. They kept on eating meat. I would see their posts, and it was all meat. And even the people that were becoming a part of that nonprofit organization that they did, I would see their posts also, and it was just meat. And it was devastating. I was seeing they did a live video yesterday when they went to the graveyard, burying him with only 10 family members. And they had to each be 6 feet apart from each other. I saw the mom crying, basically touching the casket, falling in the cement, and nobody being able to hug her and console over her son dying. A lot of humanity, we get impact because by nature we are very visual. We get impacted by seeing stories like this. And I feel like there is a big necessity that we have to start making maybe small clips of videos of what is the real issue, what is the real problem here. Like, we're like in a zombie zone right now. Like, we keep on telling people, please just go vegan. This is the only way you guys are going to fight that virus. Stop eating meat, stop eating dairy. They don't want to hear it. And it's stupid, they don't. And I seriously feel like these are the zombies. Like, no matter what, they want to have that flesh inside their mouth. They want to have that flesh in their kitchen. I get so disturbed. I try to always stay centered and to not let my energy go into that, because I know that we still have 2,000 more years to really bring that consciousness into humanity. But if we don't help those people that are already on the next side, if we don't help to pull them out of there, we are going to have to pay consequences too, because right now is the COVID-19. What's next?
Right.
So I do feel like it is very important to bring some small clips to impact that visual part of everybody and let them know what the heck is the real problem here. Doctors, like you were saying, re-educate doctors, re-educate people that are into politics, which we know that these are the people that influence more in communities.
Right.
It gets frustrating. It gets very frustrating that I have another friend that recently had a heart attack. My age. He just got off of surgery 2 days ago. And right now he posts a picture eating shrimp. I'm like, I don't want to curse, but it's like, are you fucking kidding me? And I send him a message and I'm like, what is going on? Please just know yourself, know who you really are. You're light. Feed yourself with foods of light. You are a photosynthesis plant with 2 feet and 2 legs and a brain walking. And he's like, yes, I'll put more attention to the way, but they don't want to listen. I don't know what needs to happen to people to realize. It's sad. It's sad. It truly is.
Yeah, we're going to have to try, I mean, this is why we are doing an app where we try giving them food. Okay, here, whoever wants it can take it. Okay, money is no object. So this way we'll see if they take it. So we're doing it like twice a day. So ask them to do twice a day scheduling, and it'll be only local restaurants, so you can get from local restaurants, and it'll be delivered to your home.
All righty. What a beautiful conversation. We got plenty of time left, so please raise your hand if you'd like to get in the queue. Right now we have one person in the queue, and that's Jamin. Jamin, well, hey. All righty. So we're on this beautiful topic of, what can we do on a personal level? And Sailesh, you've identified a number of things, Myra as well. All of us have. There's one thing I'd like to contribute to the discussion, which is discussion itself. What we're doing right here, right now, this is an action, and an extremely important action. We're having conversations. We're having open conversations where we're pushing the boundaries, and we're saying, okay, got it, we've done this, this is working, or this is working to this degree. What else? How can we help these vectors work better, and what else do we need to do? So I just want to remind everyone we're taking the action of conversation, and as all of you probably know, in my framing, this block party is the beginning of, our contribution to a whole network of conversations that needs to happen, that needs to be interacting, including conversations with folks we don't agree with, like, for example, Alan Savory, right? He has a lot of followers. Let's have the conversation. And I wanted to also screen share just briefly. I'm not trying to steer the conversation in a different direction, mind you, but just share a bit more of my contribution. Is there are so many topics that are relevant here, right? And so many facets to this transformation that we're in the midst of, that it helped me to sit down and actually map out a taxonomy of it. And I'm going to show you kind of the beginnings of this taxonomy, but the idea is, imagine that we had rich conversations on each of these topics and rich connections between topics. So we can take topic A, topic B, and create a mashup, talk about both, and enhance our perspective on both. And there's no limit to the number of topics that can be mashed up. So with that as intro, let me just do a quick screen share. I'll just share for about a minute or so. This is the beginnings of a map for, again, imagine there are conversations on each of these topics. On the left column, these are sort of like the categories of the topics, from, what are our acute problems, what are our chronic problems, what are the root causes, what are the solutions, and how do we generate those solutions? So in terms of what we're talking about in terms of a vegan world, veganism is one of the great mega solutions of our time. Thank you all. Thank you, Sailesh, and thank you all. But in terms of, what are the root causes of it? Well, we've got root causes down here. You could look at our evolutionary history, totalitarian agriculture per Daniel Quinn's excellent series of books, separation, Sailesh, as you were talking about, dark forces, shadow. If there are these, let's deal with them. And then all of these root causes give rise to the chronic problems that we have, including organized crime. And for me, killing animals is an organized crime against other species and against ecosystems. And this has become a built-in part of our entire system of politics, economics, and our entire set of living arrangements beyond what we eat, where we live, how we walk the earth. All of these have led to acute problems that we now have on this level here. And again, the mega solutions, and among them is a new story for humanity, very central here. Who are we? Why are we here? Like, if I'm not here to go hunting and eating meat and, dominating the planet, well, then why am I here? Right? Is it to be a caretaker, etc.? So, and then meta solution at the very top is the goose that lays the golden eggs of solutions. Is what I'm just calling collective superintelligence, which is a very emergent thing. And this is a work in progress. I tried to boil it down to one slide, but I'm noticing there are things that are missing here. So for example, among mega solutions, reconciliation, healing, and justice, the divine feminine, And then Sailesh, this comes directly from your presentation today, mega solutions of illumination, of hospice care for the old, protection of the new, and trailblazing. These are all mega solutions. So anyway, I just wanted to share that conversation and organizing ourselves into this vast, deep network of conversations that can be all hyper connected, so that we don't just get trapped in our bubble and isolate ourselves.
Right.
I'm vegan, so screw all you who aren't vegan, and I'm going to go disrupt your dinner. And I know a lot of us, that's one vector, and I've participated in that and actually found it enriching. But conversation and building bridges and connecting all these different topics.
Right.
Just wanted to call that out, and thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. That was very well done slide.
Thank you, Sailesh. All right, Charlie. Yes, go for it, Charlie.
Hi, Dr. Rao. Thank you very much, by the way. Greetings from Zurich, Switzerland, everyone. Just super briefly, I was listening from up on my roof terrace, which is my garden and kind of sanctuary, especially these days, and just working with the soil and doing some planting. And so just to mention that, but what I wanted to share is that there's so much we can do with raw food and living food. And I'm not actually not pure vegan and not pure raw foods, but I have been on and off, and I think it's just a great option and way to be and to go. And just to say, that involves sprouting, for example, and fermenting and sort of growing and increasing the enzyme quality or levels of foods. And I just thought to chime in because I've been making something called Rejuvelac, which some of you may know. It's a kind of a funny name for a recipe that Dr. Ann Wigmore had come up with some years back. And it's simply sprouted grains, especially wheat or rye or kamut, those kind of bready grains that you can sprout till the tails are about double the length of the seed. And then you put them in a big jar and you ferment it. And sort of a wide open mouth jar. And that's the whole thing. You sort of needs a lot of oxygen to sort of grow the enzymes and B vitamins and lactic acid. And it's just a wonderful beverage, but you can use it in the blender to make fruit smoothies or the veggie smoothies or energy soup. And so just a quick recipe and kind of chiming in, name checking the great Dr. Wigmore. And thank you again, Dr. Rao.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I said we have so much abundance, there is there's so much we can do, right? Creating food ourselves.
All right. Well, speaking of conversation, let's hear from more folks. Even if, and see, this is part of collective intelligence. Even if you have a half-formed thought, out with it. Somebody else will catch the baton and carry it the rest of the way, right?
Yeah.
So even
Ray has written a bunch of comments on the chat.
Yeah. Let's read some of those. Would you like to read them, Sailesh, or shall I? Either way.
Go ahead. You can read them.
So, let's see. Okay, we need everyone's inner environmentalist to come out. The problem is that there are so many people who feel that good deeds in their spare time should not challenge their other habits. I showed up to have clever signs and make the government shut down harmful practices. If meat is bad, we'll stop consuming it when it's outlawed. The environmental movement encourages a bottom-up pressure for top-down policymaking, which is only a half grassroots movement. The vegan movement happens in spite of the stalemates that permit continuing carbon polluting and state-sponsored extinction. Wow.
Right.
He goes on to write, a currency that cares how people behave is a step towards our self-awareness.
Right.
Goes on to write, the doctors have been brainwashed by pharma-sponsored schools that promote the system of illness rather than wellness. treatment rather than prevention, because
Yeah.
that's where the money is. And stalemate between MDs and naturopaths is so entrenched, a doctor can't acknowledge, as Dr. Greger does, that turmeric is an antioxidant without them feeling like a quack in the eyes of their pharma-pushing peerage. And this, for me, sounds like classical organized crime. Somebody wants to leave a criminal organization, but they're, hey, you get off the reservation and you'll never come back. And in fact, we'll pursue you. We'll hunt you down, just like we hunt so many animals. And then he writes, perhaps an example of the Vegan World 2026 medical education study group is full of both MDs and naturopaths, and it's probably the most inactive base camp project. Nobody is willing to make a comment, even in vegan circles. Can vegan doctors criticize their schools and teachers? Can we discourage the fixation on protein as the building block of healing and the fear that vegans won't be getting enough?
Yeah, this is why I'm thinking that the Vegan World Medical Education Study Group should be writing a dietary recommendation guide for the vegan world. What does the dietary recommendation guide look like in the vegan world, right? So the equivalent of what the USDA does now for the carnist world, we should do it for the vegan world. And that will be a good project for that group to take on. And because we need it anyway, we need to explain to people succinctly how they should be eating. And if you're saying whole food plant-based, yeah, sure. Then show us what kind of whole food plant-based should we be eating. It cannot be just, oats and onions every day, right? So you have to say, okay, what are the varieties you need to eat, etc. So I think Dr. Barnard has a good start on that, but we need to turn that into a complete dietary recommendation guide. Okay. And that could be a project that we need to start in the medical education study group.
If I may, I think I see a powerful parallel here. I mean, just listening to my own words and the parallels with organized crime, which I have perhaps more familiarity with than I'd like, having been a victim of organized crime. And that's an ongoing battle, actually. But in the cannabis world, being the victim of these organized criminal acts, I finally just called a spade and said, this is organized crime. And I went out on the streets here in the state of Washington and started protesting it with a full professional Darth Vader costume and a giant sign that says criminal drug cartels out of the state of Washington, and got a fair amount of traction, and actually got one of the criminal drug cartels who'd been attacking me and my family, got them expelled from the state. So that's a small victory, but I found it very powerful to call a spade. And I think it might be, a very powerful tool for calling the meat industry. That's, this is organized crime, but just as the Central Intelligence Agency, which is supposed to be all whatever, it's part of the government, and very elite and all that, they provide cover for myriad criminal organizations. And so why not call out the medical establishment, the medical schools, et cetera, big pharma? And I know you're doing it, but why not use organized crime? Let's call a spade. And those who support organized crime, whether it's a medical doctor, a medical school, or whatever, call them out and say, you are part of this vast criminal organization called the meat and dairy industry. And, and then, I don't know, invite them to a debate, the merits of organized crime against Mother Earth, against animals. What are the merits? What, delicious hamburgers? Is that worth, destroying our planet, for example? Anyway, I'm just kind of brainstorming here.
No, it's a great idea, actually, Jamin. Why don't you, as part of this collective intelligence block party, organize such debates? Invite people from the medical establishment to come and defend themselves. Is medical, maybe that could be the topic. Is the medical establishment an organized crime? Right? And that will be very provocative, right? People are going to say, wait a minute, I want to know, what is this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And say that, so-and-so is willing to debate you.
Totally. Totally. Let's get it on. Happy
Get
to
it?
help.
Maybe that could be what you do with this 2-hour slot next week onward.
Sure. Sure.
An organized crime debate. But you
I'll
need to
just
get
add,
someone from the other side to actually come and engage in the debate, right?
Well, part
I,
of that is it's like forcing their hand. I'm actually cooking up a plan to invite criminal organizations to a debate, a public debate, and say, can you justify what you do, or are you ashamed of what you do, but you do it anyway, right? Which is it? James has his hand up, and Miles after James. Go for it, James.
Yeah, great conversation. Again, Sailesh. You could actually go one further there as well, because it's one of my own ideas there as well. One of my main glitches is our education system on a whole. So it's not just the medical education system.
Right.
So like one of the points I was kind of writing about or thinking about myself is like that the system of education is designed. The system of education as a whole is designed to create the society we live in.
Right.
However, the society we now live in is no longer suited to the design of the education, which is in essence designed to produce economic orientated futures based on the consumption of resources derived from the natural environment seized from indigenous peoples, crucial to habitat for all life on Earth.
Right.
So obviously this can continue. So the root of our problems start in our education systems, which have now been altered and refined to enhance such behavior, and this behavior then is perceived as natural. So our children know no different, because right from the outset they perceive all this behavior to be natural, because the education system is designed as a whole by the economic system and everything else to produce more workers. That's all, and to consume. So it's not just a medical education problem. It's a global educational problem.
Yeah,
The whole system of
right,
education
James.
has to be changed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, this is why I call my granddaughter my teacher, because she taught me. So what I did was, when she was growing up, I decided to just do whatever she wants. I wasn't going to change her behavior based on my input. I was going to change my behavior based on her input. And that was a great learning experience, I'm telling you. She taught me so much with that, because she doesn't like competition at all. Okay? So she doesn't like games in which there's a winner and a loser. And she doesn't like, like she was playing hide and seek with her dad once, and her dad did such a good job of hiding that she couldn't find him. And then she said, I don't like this game anymore. So from now on, I'm going to tell you where to hide. So she changed the game of hide and seek to a game where we all know where the other person is hiding, but we are pretending to look for them. So because that's the game she wanted to play. It's just the process of play that she wanted. She's not interested in the outcome. Okay. Like we play speed, now that she's older, she's 9 years old now, and we play speed, which is the card game where you see who puts down their cards first, right? But the way we play it, we look at each other's cards and we help each other put their cards down. And at the end, whoever has one card left, she waits until I get a match as well. So then we both put a card down together. So she's teaching me so many things about the way we have structured our games and our education. So everything is around competition, about extraction, about who's better, who's less, about judgment. And it's all designed to create workers for the industrial system, figure out who's the most obedient. This is what our education system is. You're absolutely right. So I was even telling our group at base camp that we need to start a schooling mechanism, an education mechanism where children teach adults, deprogram adults. So the job of the adult is to do whatever the child wants.
Yeah, that is a great way of thinking. Right? My mother used to have an expression, and it's an old Irish expression. Well, it's a word, out of the mouth of babes, basically, because children come out with the most sanest of things because of their innocence, basically. And yeah, they can be great teachers. All right, I agree with that.
Right. Thank you for that question. Thank you for that.
Beautiful.
Just like to read something. I'm not a lawyer, but one of the opportunities that you have in the United States, I'm in Canada. I don't know if we have the equivalent, but if there's been a crime committed, there's an opportunity to pursue establishing a grand jury.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, not to get into the minutia of the case, but the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Truth is investigating the collapse at free fall speed of the World Trade Center Building 7. And it's completely scientific. And they're moving with the New York State Attorney, I believe, to have this heard by a grand jury. Now, grand juries work sort of behind the scenes and in secrecy to a large degree. So anyway, it might be that we could model that approach. That you collect the evidence, and in this case, they're presenting 54 submissions of evidence to make the claim that Building 7 had to have been a controlled demolition. So with the science behind what the health effects on people are, all those dozen or so diseases,
right,
and the evidence that goes along with that, and then add on top of that the pandemic that is just costing us an incalculable amount of economic loss and suffering of people, as Mayra described. These are powerful reasons to pursue like a grand jury petition. Any thoughts on that?
That's something worth exploring. I think there are vegan leaders who, we can even look at it from the perspective of, say, the death of the doctor. So the first doctor in the US died from COVID-19, an ER doctor, I think yesterday. So maybe investigation to that death, we could be looking at all of these underlying issues that caused that death to happen. I mean, I think he's a young man died. So, yeah, this is, yeah, maybe worth pursuing.
I'll just read a quote. It's by a scientist who is a PhD in materials engineering and structural engineering, and she's a forensic structural engineer. And she says, if you listen to the evidence carefully enough, it will speak to you and tell you exactly what happened. If you don't know what happened, keep listening to the evidence until you do. The evidence always tells the truth. The key is not to allow yourself to be distracted away from seeing what the evidence is telling you. Empirical evidence is the truth that theory must mimic. And that's Judy Wood, forensic engineer.
Beautiful. Welcome, Uncle Frank. And another good quote from Ray here. This could be the defining decision for the human race. We have evolved based on an accumulation of knowledge and a handoff from elder to younger for the entirety of human history. The convergence of exponential good and bad of technology and climate impact has changed all the rules. And the wisdom of industrial era is by and large contrary to where we need to go. Can our collective egos reverse this and learn from our children, who often have the freshness of thought to reject the older generations, feeding them that this is the way it has always been? And since my Uncle Frank has just joined us, I'll tell a story about Uncle Frank's older brother, my uncle and godfather, Joe Shively, who one day at Thanksgiving, they lived on a farm, they brought home a turkey, a live turkey. So my Uncle Joe started playing with the turkey, gave the turkey a name, Hester, and then realized a bit later that the turkey was supposed to be executed to eat it. And he said, no, don't kill Hester. Don't kill Hester. Well, they didn't kill Hester, and he remained a family pet. They ate something else for dinner that night. But anyway, just wanted to share that story.
Exactly. If you ask children, if adults were always listening to children, the world will be vegan very quickly. Right? I mean, instantly, the child would say, of course I don't want you to kill that animal. Makes no sense whatsoever to a child.
And then Ray writes, don't name it. When you name it, you grow attached to it, by Mike Sully in Monsters, Inc. Quote
Yeah,
from.
I know. Monsters, Inc. is also a great movie. I like that. No, we should be making that a formal educational process, having children call in, do a Zoom teaching with adults.
And a thought just occurred to me. Organize a meeting where it's just kids, right? Talking with each other. We record the whole thing and we just sit back and watch the live stream and for once listen and let them have the conversation. Do we want to be out there killing animals and eating their meat? Here's what I know about this. Kamaya could have her facts at the ready. So could anyone. And let them have the conversation. See what they sort out.
There's another idea, Jamin. Just have a conversation between two kids, rather than, it's not a debate, just have a conversation between two kids. And then have the rest of us just watch.
Totally. I would love that. In fact, both of Myra's sons have been on, and we've had literally multiple hours of conversation with them, and it's been super enlightening. Yeah, it just brings a clarity because they don't have all this, clutter about, well, that's how the free market works, and of course, just all this nonsense that's been beaten into us. Right?
Yeah. Suddenly we discover that the free market, is not all that free, first of all. Secondly, people are sitting at home and somehow money is coming to us, right? So They're sending checks, dropping it into our banks. Not just here, I mean, throughout the world. People are discovering that's what it is, right? It's just the community is saying, yeah, you're entitled to have something from the community.
All right. Well, no one's in the queue. And we keep getting wisdom in text form from Ray. Thank you, Ray. And feel free to unmute. And ooh la la.
Yeah, I have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And in fact, Myra has her hand up, and then I wanted to make a comment about your next interview, Sailesh, but go for it, Myra.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about the kids. I think it's a great idea because we do really need to listen to them. I've been having a lot of struggles with Ryan. Unfortunately, he has a very unaware dad, and then, you know, he's going to have to, my son is literally going to have to teach him a lot. This is the way that it is now. Our little ones are basically teaching us, but unfortunately, this last 2 weeks since he started going to school, I've been having a lot of little problems with him because I've learned the more times now that he's not going to school and that he's been with me more hours, I've learned that he has this co-creating violence that his dad has put him into his brain because he allows him to play violent video games. But I would love to have him conversate with Sailesh's granddaughter. They can meet and they can talk, and maybe this is a segment that we can save up for next Friday so they can, I'm going to have Ryan next Friday, so it will be really interesting to see them talk and to just conversate and see what's the outcome of that.
I'll see if I can get Kimaya here next Friday.
Awesome. Super cool.
And I love because Kamaya, she's super talkative, and Ryan, he is super talkative too. And Kamaya will be such an amazing girl to maybe guide him and to bring out the best of Ryan, because I try to talk to him a lot, but with them interacting with the kind of like the same age level, they can definitely influence a lot more than even adults.
Let's call it the wisdom of youth, or the wisdom of children, or something like that. And I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah.
My goodness. Because Kamaya, growing up in the family she's been blessed to grow up with, she's just like bursting with brilliance and courage. So, and Ryan, my goodness, what a beautiful specimen. I've had so many great conversations with Ryan. I think that'd be so exciting. And then the rest of us could just sit back and watch and listen with our microphones muted. If they need help, they'll ask for it, and, you know, etc. And we'll just all be here. I think that would just be so cool and so empowering for them that they got all these, you know, bearded grown-ups, you know, listening.
And they love the attention. They love to have public listening to them. So it will be very, very interesting. We just need to confirm that and see if Kamaya is available next week. I know for sure Ryan will be available next week. I can commit that for that, and just confirming with Kamaya and finding a good title.
Sure. I'll talk to her today.
All right. James has his hand up, but I have a quick comment first before Sailesh, before you take off. What I'd like to do is actually screen share your next interview on the block party, because it's just wow. And so my request is, would you be good enough to have one of your folks email me the link for watching it live streaming? I know there have been some issues with Facebook, maybe YouTube is working, I don't know which, but whichever live streaming link is working, would you just be good enough to have them email that to?
Let me see if I can, let me just put it up on the.
Oh, okay.
chat box.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's the link I use.
Okay.
So
Oh, well, no, the thing is, here's the thing. If I click on that, it'll say you have to leave this meeting to go to that other meeting.
right, yeah.
But if you give me a live streaming feed, either Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're live streaming it, other than Zoom, then I can, we can all stay here because I need to be here for people.
Right. Yeah, I think it's being live streamed on Facebook, Climate Healers. So Climate Healers will have the live stream video show up on Facebook.
Okay, great. Very good. And I know you got to go, and James has his hand up. So James, if you can say it quickly, so we don't keep Sailesh too long.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I just wanted to say, I think that would be a good idea there. I could probably try and get my niece as well to join in the little, she's 5 now, but she's well able to have a conversation, and I think it would be a good thing for all children. So it could be become a little an hour section out of this. All right, like it could become very interesting. So I think it's great.
Oh my goodness, I would love that. I've seen a video of your niece that you shared with us. Absolutely brilliant, and with this beautiful Irish accent. Oh my goodness, what an amazing conversation!
It'd be awesome. Yeah, I think the kids would enjoy that.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it would be fascinating, given that they're confined at the moment, to have the idea of having a conversation with other kids around the world. I think that would be fascinating alone.
Oh,
Right.
love it, love it. We're gonna call it hopscotch, the 2-hour segment for children at the block party. Because what do people do at block parties? They take out the chalk and do hopscotch. So we're gonna call it hopscotch, the children's segment. Alrighty, Sailesh, I know you got to go, and I know I speak for all of us when saying another amazing presentation and discussion. Thank you so much, Sailesh. I know this is the end of the 7-part series. Please come back. Come out with a 700-part series so that we can have it here forever.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everything.
Okay. Love you so much, Sailesh. Thanks so much, and we'll be watching.
Okay, bye-bye.
Big block party will be watching you. So, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'll keep it recording until it makes sense to not record, and then we'll just start a new recording for the next segment. And let me first see if it's actually. Can I get a volunteer to check out the Facebook page that Sailesh mentioned and see if it's streaming yet? Usually they start streaming now.
I'm going to depart. It's been wonderful. Totally enjoyed it. And we'll check back later. Bye, everybody.
Awesome, Miles. Great to see you, buddy. We'll see you soon.
It's not streaming yet, J-Man.
Okay. But is it like queued up?
Catch up with you soon, Miles.
Okay, great. Thanks, James. Bye.
I'm just going to go ahead and pause recording for now.